Hello, this is SR. Now I am telling you about a cruel revenge, Reddit cheating story. Now let's start. At the upscale restaurant, my wife Alana and I were enjoying our meal when I noticed the approach of my oldest and closest friend. I discreetly whispered to my wife, informing her that Terence Landis was coming towards our table. I had previously mentioned to her that he had been my best friend since second grade, and this was indeed true. However, I cautioned her to be cautious around him, as he had a reputation for being quite fond of women. Thankfully, I assured her that I should be safe. Alana responded quietly, acknowledging my concerns. She then inquired if Terence was the wealthy friend I had mentioned before. I nodded in confirmation and rose from my seat to greet Terence, extending my hand for a handshake. To my surprise, he embraced me tightly, almost like a bear, which felt slightly awkward given the public setting. "Tim, it's great to see you again," Terence exclaimed. "It's been such a long time since we last spent time together." He then turned his attention towards Alana, slowly scanning her from head to toe, particularly focusing on her impressive breasts. "May I assume that this is your charming wife, Alana?" he asked. "I was in Singapore when you two got married, but I made sure to send a gift. I hope you enjoyed it. You're the friend who gifted Tim the new pickup truck, right?" Alana exclaimed with excitement, standing up and eagerly reaching out her arms for a hug. "Alana, this is my best friend Terence," I introduced. However, Terence politely but firmly pulled me aside to embrace Alana in his arms. "Terence, meet my wife Alana," I said, gesturing towards her. "I've told her so much about you." Alana quickly chimed in, expressing her surprise at Terence's tall and handsome appearance. She hugged him for longer than I deemed appropriate for a married woman. Curious about Terence's presence in Daytona, I asked him what brought him here. He explained that he had recently purchased a condominium in the Dunes and was currently renovating it. He mentioned that he was staying at a local hotel and had come to the restaurant for dinner alone. Alana, intrigued by the idea of a condominium in the Dunes, commented on their high prices, with the smallest ones starting at over $1 million. Terence confirmed her statement but added that the bedrooms in those units were quite small and cramped. Luckily, he possessed an innate ability to discern a woman's interests and captivate her attention effortlessly. Alana, on the other hand, was an exceedingly materialistic woman. I had a respectable income and a substantial amount of savings. However, Alana seemed determined to drain our finances. Despite it being our third anniversary, she seemed to disregard my presence in favor of Terence. The blatant favoritism was so apparent that some of the onlookers cast sympathetic glances in my direction. As the waiter approached with our food, I suggested that we take our seats and enjoy the meal while it was still hot, hoping that we could rekindle our connection. Alana didn't object to anything I said, but she raised the stakes simply by acknowledging our guest. "Terence, you should join us," she declared. "Tim always speaks so highly of you, and I would love to get to know you better. My husband's best friend is my friend as well." Terence hesitated, acknowledging my understanding nod. However, Alana swiftly intervened. "Waiter, please set the table for Terence. He will be joining us for dinner." "Thank you," she instructed. The waiter promptly turned on his heels and went off in search of the necessary arrangements. In less than a minute, Terence was seated at our table, monopolizing the conversation. While he and Alana engaged in a discussion about various topics, I occupied myself by winning a game of solitaire on my phone. I paid little attention to their conversation until Alana directed her words towards me. "Tim, we have 2 vacant rooms. Why don't we invite Terence to stay with us? You two can catch up and spend more time together. It will also give Terence the chance to experience home-cooked meals. His apartment will be ready in about a week, so it won't be an inconvenience at all." Alana's suggestion left me dumbfounded. Did she truly believe that Terence would appreciate her cooking? I had no doubt that she would order expensive takeout from upscale restaurants and present it on her finest china. Knowing Terence as well as I did, I was fairly certain that he would be dining at the Y by the end of the week, much to the delight of any culinary connoisseur. After my first wife Helen passed away following our 22 years of marriage, I never had any concerns about her and Terence's friendship crossing any boundaries. Helen was an incredibly loyal and devoted wife, and I trusted her completely. Unfortunately, her sudden heart attack took her away from us 5 years ago. I mourned Helen's loss for over a year until I met Alana at a charitable event. Despite the 11-year age gap between us, it didn't seem to bother her at all. Before long, I proposed to her, and we embarked on a 3-year marriage. Alana had been previously married, but she divorced her first husband after discovering his infidelity, or so she claimed. I made it clear to her that I would never betray her trust by cheating on her, as it simply wasn't in my nature. It appeared that Alana didn't have to put in much effort to persuade Terrence to spend time with us, aside from the revealing outfits she wore that accentuated her cleavage while leaning in towards him, hanging on his every word. Naturally, Terrence didn't have the obligation of waking up early in the morning for work like the rest of us who didn't have millions of dollars in the bank. Alana hadn't held a job since her divorce from her first husband, as she seemed to have managed her financial situation quite well. She insisted on a prenuptial agreement that ensured I would never lay claim to her money, regardless of the duration of our marriage. This arrangement suited me fine, as I had a stable income from my investments and a fulfilling job. When I arrived home on Monday night, I noticed that Alana and Terrence seemed even more comfortable with each other than they had been during our dinner at the restaurant the previous night. Dinner was already prepared, and it was exceptionally delicious. As expected, I found containers from a local restaurant in the trash can. Alana and Terrence were so engrossed in their own little world that they didn't even acknowledge my presence as I left the living room, slightly irritated, and made my way upstairs to bed. Their lack of attention towards me didn't make me feel embarrassed. To my surprise, when I returned home on Wednesday evening, I discovered Alana waiting for me, seemingly eager to speak. In my opinion, she was seated too close to an expensive sofa that she simply needed next to her, especially for a friend. The man she had recently met was Terrence. "Tim, we need to have a conversation." Alana's first words caught me off guard once again. It was just an ordinary Wednesday. How on earth did Terrence manage to work his charm so quickly? I knew he excelled at everything he put his mind to, but this was truly impressive. It would undoubtedly come at a high cost for me, I was certain of it. Alana explained that Terrence and I had discovered that we were kindred spirits. We didn't intend for this to happen, but it did. Both of us feel immense guilt about it, but we cannot deny the incredibly strong attraction we have for each other. "Tim, I'm going to file for divorce. Once it's finalized, I will marry Terrence. Please don't try to dissuade me from this decision. I refuse to lose my house and half of my savings just because you couldn't remain faithful and Terrence couldn't control his desires." I declared with unwavering determination that I didn't even recognize within myself. Alana responded with contempt, calling me a typical insecure individual. She made it clear that she didn't marry me for money and had no interest in it. When we divorce, both Terrence and I believe the process will be expedited if I simply walk away with the money I brought into the marriage. What are your thoughts on this, Tim? Will this enough incentive for you to grant me a swift divorce? Alana demanded. I cunningly parried. Where do you want me to sign? I knew that money held more value to you than our relationship ever did. I'll spend the next few nights with Terrence while we wait for his apartment to be painted. I don't want to hear any complaints, no whining, crying, or begging, Alana insisted. I simply nodded, turned, and made my way into the nearest tavern. It's astonishing how quickly a divorce can progress through the courts when all three parties involved are determined, and one of them is wealthy. A few months later, I found myself once again a single man. After my divorce was finalized, I decided to revisit the same restaurant where Alana and I had first met Terrence. To my surprise, I found him sitting alone at a table for two. Without hesitation, I walked in and joined him. Terrence greeted me with a wide smile and asked, "Would you like to publicly kiss my feet here in the restaurant? Or should we wait for a more private setting?" I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. "I don't understand how you can be so happy," I remarked. "You shouldn't have proposed to Alana. Now she has grounds to accuse you of cheating, breaking a contract, lying outright, or simply being a terrible person to her." Terrence, as usual, remained calm and replied, "That won't happen. You fail to see the bigger picture. Why don't you enlighten me then?" I know Alana, and she is nothing if not stubborn, vindictive, and malicious. I retorted, you didn't feel that way when you asked her to marry you, did you? Terence chuckled in response. Consider this, I began. What was the final straw that led you to want to end things with her? I pondered for a moment before continuing. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that her personal trainer seemed to have an unusual amount of influence over her. It drove me crazy. She had me wrapped around her finger. If I had filed for divorce, even on grounds of adultery, she would have been entitled to half of everything, plus spousal support. That's why I turned to you for help. I never thought you'd be able to convince her to ask for a divorce by Wednesday. It was truly remarkable. Terence responded, it has more to do with how my portfolio has improved over the years. Once she realized how much money I had, she was instantly seduced. I must admit, I will miss her in bed. With a joyful tone, Terence confessed, having sex with your wife was one of the most exhilarating experiences of my life. I replied, it was her unique talent that initially drew me into this situation. Seriously, you did an excellent job freeing me from that money-hungry woman, but why don't you care about how she'll react when you leave her without ever marrying her? She's bound to figure out the entire plan. She may be promiscuous, but she's also intelligent. I previously mentioned the larger perspective. Terence inquired about the engagement gift, and I decided to give Alana a weekend at the Ritz, which included a spa day. I expressed my frustration by calling him an idiot. Didn't I inform you that Alana Studd, the personal trainer, now works as a massage therapist at the Ritz? It's possible that they crossed paths. What are you implying? I arranged it for her while I was designing the spa. Terence confessed last night that I visited her just to gauge her reaction to my gift. Since I paid for the room, I had a key. Fortunately, my phone was already set up for video recording. It's no wonder I found her incredibly happy with my gift. Was she with him? Do you have a video? Did she betray you? I handled the situation by gradually organizing my thoughts. You must have been deeply upset, possibly angry enough to end the engagement. Terence responded with a smirk, stating that Alana was devastated by my unforgiving attitude. It was the first time she had done something like that, and he assured me it would never happen again. I agreed with her on this. I won't allow this to happen to me again. Currently, she is out shopping and returning my gifts all while sobbing and cursing. You owe me a dinner for convincing her to mention on Wednesday that she wants a divorce. Terence added with a wide smile, you saved me a lot of money, my friend. I would be delighted to treat you to dinner. You have always been there for me. Alana has no understanding of relationships, but you know the true meaning of friendship. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so that your second half doesn't betray you. And go ahead and listen to the next story because this one is nothing compared to what's coming. If you're under 18, don't even consider listening to the next one.